Hello, and welcome back to another Chris McPherson Show Daily Dose, and it's an exuberant episode as Australia take a 2-0 lead in the 5-test Ashes series against the English here on home soil. And despite, at times, there being some questions on day one, the Aussies have proven their strength and got over the line, but aided certainly by some errors and some mistakes and some underperformance at times by the English, but a much more classical test, a much better, closer test in some ways, but Australia still winning by a decent margin at the end. It was in the balance at times, probably on day 1 and 2, but Australia eventually turned their stranglehold into victory partway through day 4 as the action came to a conclusion, much to the, betterment of Cricket Australia. Of course, if you're jumping on for the first time episodes, make sure to hit subscribe down below. Also, give it a like on this video and get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think. And you can catch us on our social media channels in between our episodes at The Chris Mack Show on X, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on Facebook. But as I said, we're here to unpack the second test for the Ashes from the Gabba. And on day 4, the Aussies have got things done just around 7:30 at night. We're recording just afterwards. 2 for 69, chasing that required 65 after England had fought back early on day 4. Will Jacks and Ben Stokes had combined to put some runs together and certainly made it a little bit more challenging. They got rid of the deficit and set a target for Australia. But then once that partnership came undone for 96 when Jacks passed, Stokes passed 3 runs later, then it was a bit of a downhill slide from there, and they lost their final 4 wickets in the end for 17 runs. Well done, Michael Neser, picking up 5 wickets in the second innings. Australia obviously had to dig to some different options with the limitations they had in their bowling attack. But again, they got it done. Neser takes 5 for the top score for the English in that second innings. It was Stokes who got his half century. They did enough to set Australia a total, as I said, thanks to that partnership, but it wasn't a big one. Australia needed to chase it down, and they did so with 8 wickets in hand. Gus Atkinson got 2 wickets, but it was interesting seeing Jofra Archer and Steve Smith go toe-to-toe. Jofra clearly getting a little bit of a bee in his bonnet in that second innings especially. He was ripping them down at 150 Ks, and Steve Smith was happy to take him on. He got 23 from 9 balls in the end, 2 4s, 2 6s. It was like he was playing T20 white ball cricket. And Archer now holds the record of the most balls bowled to Steve Smith without dismissing him in Test cricket. So a little bit of a train spotter moment, a little bit of a very nuanced moment in terms of the record books, but a nuanced record nonetheless that Jofra Archer now holds. It may be something that he unpacks before the end of the series. Obviously, this test was, a milestone or a marker moment for Joe Root's career. He finally got that century in the first innings to break that drought that he had never getting a century on Australian soil. But he's still without a test victory here in our country. So that is something he'll be looking to wrap as we now head towards Adelaide and then Melbourne and Sydney in the new year. Root will have that focus. There's certainly plenty of things, I guess, that you can unpack in this one. One, probably, if you want to be a bit of a naysayer for the Aussies, would be to talk about the fact that none of our batters managed to, go on with the job, for want of a better term, in our first innings. Every Australian batter reached double figures. Only 2 of them dismissed in the teens, including Brendan Doggett, the last man to fall, Michael Neser, the other. But we had, 5 half centuries. We had 3 players in the 30s or 40s, a couple in the 20s. Mitchell Starc was the high bat at 77, batting all the way down at number 9, which shows a great depth in our batting lineup, which was obviously bolstered by bringing in someone who knocks on the door of being an all-rounder like Michael Neser. But again, it doesn't change the result, but it does really question where our batting is at. And we've had these conversations around in the lead up to this test series. We need some players who can go on and score some big runs. That's probably a question to have a look at and how we discuss that in terms of these scores and this match. Certainly nothing to be negative about, but something to be aware of, because obviously if the English had had a couple more contributors in that first innings, it might have been a different story. And I know what you'll say, could have, would have, should have. If my auntie had a pair, she'd be my uncle. We understand all of the ifs, buts, maybes, right? It's one of these pieces, though, that I think it's just something we need to have on our radar. We haven't had someone go on and go big in this test, whereas the English did. Joe Root's 138. Unfortunately for him, he was let down because, some of the other scores outside of him and Zach Crawley. I think the next best was Jofra Archer batting at 11 with 38. So Obviously, great to see a lot of our batters getting starts, a number of half centuries in there, as we touched on, some 40s, some 30s, all that sort of stuff. But I think we need to see some of our Aussies going on to make big scores, and it might just be, the circumstances here in Brisbane, but there's something probably underlying this for mine, and I think it's something I want to see when we go to Adelaide. Maybe a couple of these batters going on to make big scores. It will be interesting to see what we look at in Adelaide. The expectation is that Pat Cummins will be fit, Usman Khawaja will be fit. What does that look like? Do we make any changes? I would suggest we obviously bring Nathan Lyon back in as well. I would suggest Lyon and Cummins will quite possibly come in. Does that mean you would expect then that Nessa and Doggett will be the players that will make way? But again, we will see. Maybe Michael Nisa, the fact that he picked up those 5 wickets in the second innings might give a bit of rumination, a bit of food for thought for the selectors as to whether they weigh up Nisa or Boland. Nisa's batting as well adds a bit more depth to a lineup, as I said, where we're not firing with big scores, especially bringing Nathan Lyon back in. So some interesting thought there. Josh Inglis, 23, did really well in the field though. Whether they keep him in, keep Travis Head at the top, and Usman Khawaja doesn't come back in even if he's fit. I think it's fair to say Usman's getting right towards the back end of his career. Even if he was to be welcomed back in, it might only be for a limited number of tests anyway. So that's certainly going to be an interesting one. For the English, will they bring Wood back in? What do they do in terms of, did Jacks do enough to keep his spot? There's going to be some questions around that as we look at the Adelaide match, that's for certain. So really interested. On the batting front, though, obviously, we have the Australia A and England Lions game going on at the same time, and there's some big runs that have been put on by the Aussies there in their first innings. Nathan McSweeney, 226 not out. That is a huge knock. Xavier Bartlett getting 83 not out, 83, sorry, and Campbell Kellaway with 71. Cooper Connolly as well, 88. Bo Webster batting in that game, 44, batting at 5. So in all right form. Obviously as well, 116 all out. Jai Richardson showed why he's been a test star before, 4 for 35. So some real positives for us out of that. The English Lions, maybe they can take some positives out of Jacob Bethel and Asa Tribe getting some runs, I suppose, but Bethel probably the more known. And then obviously for the Aussies in the second innings, Fergus O'Neill. We know that he's a name certainly to watch as he continues to emerge as an out-and-out bowler with a little bit of batting to his name, but 453 from 17 overs is a pretty good, I guess, recoup from a bowling innings as well. But in terms of that Brisbane test, I think it went as you would want it to, outside of a few opportunities of batsmen going on and making a real killing with this. So, again, that's probably the one Achilles heel in this. Watching what comes now with our fast bowling cartel and who's fit and who's ready to go with Mitchell Starc as well. That'll be another question. But we'll wait and see. A win is a win. We are 2-0 up now. We essentially just need one more test win out of the final 3. So you'd have to be fairly confident on that. It's been a long time coming, getting this lead, and we need to continue to build on with that. I'm looking forward to Pat Cummins coming back into the side, hopefully in Adelaide. That's what we look like expecting. And then those other changes, as we said, we'll wait and see. But Mitchell Starc probably gets, I think it's fair to say, player of the match for mine. 6 wickets in the first innings, top scoring in the second. Hard to argue with, those sorts of pieces. He's done well with the bat and the ball here. And again, that'll be another man of the match from my point of view. I think he was officially given the man of the match as well. Now that I quickly look at what's being loaded up on my screen as we go. So interesting to see he continues to dominate. So what comes from that will be interesting as to what we shape into Adelaide and then Melbourne. But one more win required to lock the Ashes back in Australia and where it belongs. So really excited about that. Well done to the Aussies. Well done to Joe Root on that century, finally breaking that drought. As much as it might be a piece where we like to or love to hate the English, I think we have to give credit where credit's due, and that was a great knock in the first innings when people were falling all around him. So well done to Joe. Look forward to Adelaide. We look forward to bringing you more content over the next couple of days as well. We've got plenty more daily doses talking F1 and a few other things this week. We'll also be doing a little bit of a preview in the coming days on the next-gen finals for the ATP tennis. But if you haven't already, hit subscribe down below. Again, get involved in the comments. Let me know whether I've missed it, whether I'm being too harsh on the Aussies. Certainly would love your feedback. But in the meantime, make sure, as I said, hit subscribe, give the video a like, share it with some friends. And if you haven't already, follow us along on your favourite social media channels. A huge thank you to you for tuning in to your home of the black and white of sports. No grey opinions here, and we'll see you again soon.